Hey guys, Happy New Year again. If you missed the last episode, I still feel like saying Happy New Year for a little while. I'm enjoying this new year. I am enjoying the Lord in this new year. I hope you are too. Finally got home. Just been away for a few days with some friends in Kelowna praying and seeking God for our nation. But I'm home. Just got home about an hour ago, cozy in my den again, and was cuddling up to a good book. And I thought, you know what? I should probably do a little episode. So I got a scripture for you. Today's January 5th, 1-5. I'm going to give you Jeremiah 1-5. It says this: Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. This is God speaking to you. Listen, it says, Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. Before you were born, I set you apart and I appointed you to be a prophet to the nations. Now, when you hear a scripture like that, does it make your heart leap, or do you find a hard time applying those words to yourself? Do you say, well, that was for Jeremiah the prophet, that's not necessarily for me? You need to understand this. God is no respecter of persons. God does not show favoritism. If God knit Jeremiah together in his mother's womb and had a big plan for his life, God knit you together. You are his creation, and he has a big plan for your life. Paul the Apostle, he understood this. He actually talks about this in Galatians 1:15. Now remember, Paul was a pretty rotten guy. He actually said he was the chief of sinners. He was a murderer of Christians before the Lord forced him. And really, you got to remember, Paul didn't choose Jesus. Jesus chose Paul. He just kind of knocked him off his horse and said, "You're coming with me." But even though he was the chief of sinners, Paul later on says these words, Galatians 1:15, he says, when God, who set me apart even from my mother's womb. You see that? He believed the same thing Jeremiah believed. He said, when God, who set me apart even from my mother's womb and called me by his grace, was pleased to reveal his son in me. And he goes on and on. A great passage. I'd love to preach that, but I don't have time. Point is, Paul understood he was called and set apart from his mother's womb. God had a plan for him, even though he didn't call him until much later in life. I don't care what your past is. I don't care what your story is. I don't care how rotten you've been. God created you. God designed you. Sometimes when I'm feeling a little weak, or I'm feeling a little less than average or unimportant or unpowerful, I like to remind myself that God designed me, that God knit me together in my mother's womb. I like to remember that he designed my nose. Some people might think it's too big, but if God designed it, it has to be perfect. And so who cares what anybody thinks? And God designed my brain, which means he could have made me smarter if he wanted to, but he chose not to. He could have made me wittier. He could have made me a lot of things. But if he did, I wouldn't be me. And God wanted me to be me, because he had a plan and a purpose on this earth, and he needed someone just like me. And that's why he made me me. And friend, it is true for you too. God created you. God designed you. God likes you. He even loves you because you are his plan. And he has a wonderful purpose for you. Now, you and I still get to decide every day whether we're going to live a life worthy of the calling that he has for us. And while Paul and Jeremiah may have reached the destiny that God had for them, many people choose not to, but that doesn't mean that God doesn't have a destiny for you. God has a plan for your life. So spend time with him. Draw close to him today. Don't try to be someone else. Don't wish you were someone else, because God made you to be you, and there's no one else like you. Anyways, I hope that was a blessing to you. Like it, share it, and if you haven't already, make sure you join our Oil Patch Pulpit community by sending me an email to feedback@oilpatchpulpit.com.